the Call of Duty Zombies iceberg. Now, I assume you know what an iceberg is by now, but just in case, an iceberg is split into multiple sections filled with different points of interest of a certain subject or theme, with things further up on the iceberg being things that is commonly known by most people, and things lower on the iceberg being more obscure and mysterious things. So for example, if this was an iceberg of something like the Second World War, things like the Axis, Adolf, Mussolini, the Holocaust would be more commonly known, so they would appear higher on the iceberg, and things like Unit 731 and the Heavy Water would be lower on the iceberg, as those things aren't so commonly known. And I decided to make my own iceberg about Call of Duty Zombies, taking a look at some of the common myths and some more obscure ones, and place them into this iceberg I made. I wanted to make my own so I can actually talk about these things, because most icebergs on the internet are just filled with buzzwords that don't mean anything at all, just to increase the spooky factor. Also, I'm going to add a little perk marker here, and since I'm slightly lazy, depending on how low or high the opacity of the icon is dependent on how confident I am in my reasoning. And there will be another perk icon here. If the opacity is high, it's a confirmed thing. If it's low, it's likely just a fake myth. And if it's somewhere in between, it's possible it can be either fake or real, or maybe real in some versions of the game. With all that said, let's just jump into this. Group 935. Group 935 is a group within Call of Duty Zombies universe that conducts experiments on element 115. It's a secret organization, but we mostly hear about it in Germany during World War II, with Dr. Ludwig Maxis being their leader, and also a villain later turned into a supporting character in Black Ops 3. He worked along with Dr. Edward Richthofen, who also helped him conduct experiments with 115. Shinonuma Meteor. If you go on Shinonuma and go to one of the 4 outdoor areas of the map, you can find a meteor in the distance. This meteor contains element 115 and is likely the reason why there are zombies in Japan, which is where Shinonuma takes place. I wonder if Japan did anything more with element 115, since in Germany you had the crazy shit going on, but in Japan we mostly just hear about some minor things Division 9 did, which is pretty much just the Japanese version of Group 935. Hidden radios. Throughout pretty much every Zombies map, there are these radios scattered around that gives you storyline information. First ones being about Group 935, Dr. Ludwig Maxis, Element 115, the first zombies, and about the first teleportation tests. Loose change under the perks. In the Reese, you can prone at any perk machine and it will give you 25 points, even though sometimes it may say you gained 30, which is just a bug. Speaking of which, on Nocturne and Toten, if you go to the Thompson wall buy, it says it costs 1,500 points, which is just straight up a lie. It actually costs 1,200 points. Element 115. Element 115 is a unique property in Call of Duty Zombies and has multiple uses. For example, being able to make zombies, teleporters, wonder weapons and more. It was also used by making the Hellhounds after Richthofen did a little trolling by putting a dog named Fluffy into a teleporter fueled with element 115. It's also said that the weapons like the Wunderwaffe and most of the other weapons are fueled with element 115. It's also believed that it can cause hallucinations and memory loss. That's probably the least of your worries, as most people who interact with element 115 just turns into zombies, unless you are, a main character. Mule Kick on Moon. This is a very simple entry. It just states that Mule Kick, the perk, was introduced on the map Moon and was later added to all the previous Zombies maps. Of course, you need to buy the Moon DLC map pack to get access to Mule Kick, so if you play any map without the Resurrection DLC pack, you won't find Mule Kick on any of the previous maps. Jimmy Zelensky. Jimmy Zelensky was the lead director of Call of Duty Zombies back in World at War, Black Ops 1, and some of Black Ops 2. He made some banger maps, banger after banger after banger, until Black Ops 2, where he did a slightly enormous mistake. But they gave him a second chance. And then he also fucked up, and was later replaced by this dude. Speaking of which, Jason Blundell. Jason Blundell took over as the director for the Zombie series after Jimmy Zelensky. This Jimmy Zelensky was removed after, afterwards he made an absolute banger of a map, being Mob of the Dead, and then proceeded to make banger after banger after banger, until he too also did a slightly huge fuck up. Ray gun every time. This is an infamous one. It was said, if you did some sort of spinning around, shooting the box 3 times, proning 2 times and putting a grenade up your ass, you would get the ray gun from the mystery box. I, as a dumb kid, fell for this. And so did you. Don't even try to lie. Kino is DLC 4. Was the 4th DLC for Call of Duty World at War, but was later saved, and they decided to add it into Black Ops 1 instead, which was probably a good decision. Imagine if Black Ops 1 started out with 5. I think that would have been a disaster for the Zombie series. As although 5 is a good map, but starting off with a map like this in 2010, that's gotta be a big ouchie, my guy. But honestly, I would have loved to see Kino der Toten being in World at War. There's probably some sort of mods you can download to play Kino der Toten on World at War, but I am not downloading a Kino der Toten mod from a website like this. Downloading mods for Call of Duty World at War is like the sketchiest thing in the world. Like, forget going on stuff like the dark web or deep web or any like sketchy Russian site. These mod sites is like the pinnacle of suspicious. Icarus on Shadows of Evil and the Giant. Icarus is the plane built by the gangsters in the map Mob of the Dead. It can be seen flying around in different Black Ops 3 maps. You can see it on the roof on one of the teleporters in the Giant. You can also see it sometimes flying around on Shadows of Evil as it's flying through different timelines and rifts. Who knows? Maybe the gas canisters had been infected with element 115, which is what allows the plane to teleport around multiple timelines. Hanging body on the Reese. On the Reese, if you go to the left after going right, going up the stairs, taking the right way to power, you can find a man just hanging from the ceiling. You can shoot him and he'll be spinning, but it's pretty much just a small Easter egg. Who's hanging there? I think it's actually Porter, a scientist you should thank because he made the upgraded version of the ray gun, which is called the Porter's X2 ray gun. V2 Rocket Productions. V2 Rocket Productions is a YouTube channel that made their own version of Call of Duty Zombies, with really good costumes, props, and actors, with characters playing Dempsey, Nikolai, Akeo, and Rick Toffen. The channel is still on YouTube and you can go watch their videos right now. They even have made some bloopers and funny moments they recorded on the channel. I remember watching this back in like the early 2010s. This was like peak entertainment back in the day.
You like ponies? And me too.
Permaperks. Permaperks is a unique feature in Black Ops 2 where you could perform a set amount of tasks and you would get an ability as a reward. Permaperks would be activated by a weird sound and a green lightning effect, and would be removed by another weird sound. Some of these abilities were good, like Tombstone Permaperk, which is way better than its Perka-Cola counterpart. Extra headshot points, quick revive, better box spins were some of these permaperk abilities. And one of the coolest one being the ability to buy the ray gun off the wall by purchasing the Olympia, only if you were in a bone rank. Which also brings me back to a personal story back in 2013. I was playing Transit with my cousin, and after doing one trip around the map with the bus, I decided to buy the Olympia and was in pure shock as I somehow obtained the ray gun. 10-year-old me at the time was both surprised and shocked, because we didn't know what permaperks even was. Then my cousin went and bought it too. The thing was, he didn't have this permaperk, so he replaced his RPD with an Olympia, which made me laugh like crazy, and he just left. Group 935 logo. It's kind of complex when you look at it, but it's actually a bit interesting. There seems to be a hand grabbing a large ball. This ball can either be something like the sun or earth to show a sense of power or something, or this could be like the meteor infused with element 115. There's also some weird lines going around, which could either be planets or maybe it's something like, I don't know, atoms or molecules. There's also a gear too, which might be a reference to science.
Yes, science!
Leroy Jenkins. On the map Buried, there's this guy named Arthur. However, the community refers to him as Leroy Jenkins, or simply just Leroy. The reason why people named him Leroy is likely a reference to the meme Leroy Jenkins, which is a meme from World of Warcraft. I've never played World of Warcraft before, so I can't be 100% sure, but it seems to be an old WoW video. A couple of players are discussing how to beat a boss or a raid or something, but one of their teammates screams their name, Leroy Jenkins, and just charges straight into the boss arena, which might remind you of Arthur from Buried, who charges into anything if you just give him some booze. I can definitely see the resemblance, but I'm not 100% sure. Hidden radios again. I said that there were some radios scattered throughout the map, which wasn't too difficult to find. So this entry is pretty much the same, but for some harder to find radios. Like this one on top of the chandelier on Kino. I honestly didn't know about this until like 2020. Like I had no idea this even was here. Bus route B. This is an alternate bus route the bus can't take on the map transit. I think this goes a lot less deep than what the community actually thinks, and it's probably just something that Treyarch made as a small detail on the map board. Now, in actuality, this alternate bus route is said to go to Nuketown, which is a bit interesting as transit takes place in Washington and Nuketown is in the Nevada desert, but people just completely ignore that fact. Unless there are multiple Nuketowns. Transit PAP turbine location. Did you know that you actually don't have to go down the Shrek outhouse to open up the door to the pack-a-punch machine? The turbine has an AoE effect, which means area of effect, so you can actually just place the turbine just outside the Shrek outdoor house, which will open up the pack-a-punch area underneath the bank, which is honestly a really helpful thing to know, so you don't have to run all the way through the power station. Ammo-matic is a scrapped perk from World at War. It was said it could drop a max ammo power-up if consumed, which sounds cool and all, as before Hellhounds there was no way to consistently get back ammo from box weapons. It sounds like a cool and unique perk, and you have probably played a game with this perk, as it's quite literally just ammo crates from Cold War. Yeah, not so cool anymore, huh? Juggernaut on transit without opening staircase. This is a weird one. If you go on top of the bus, you can jump up and buy Juggernaut without buying the door, which honestly I think is pretty cool. Sadly though, zombies will still spawn. They seem to be in just pure disbelief. They seem to just stand there doing their idle animations. I'm not sure if this is patched or not. If it is, then just write it in the comments. Knocking in the dressing room. This is a popular one. On Kino der Toten, in the dressing room, if you go up to this barrier, a knocking can be heard. It's unknown who's knocking or why, but most likely it's someone who is trapped in one of these large boxes or chests just inside this barrier. It's honestly kinda unnerving, probably because we haven't gotten any clues on who this is or why it's here. Hitler boss. This is an old one. It said that if you reached round 100, you could fight a zombie Hitler boss. I'm not gonna lie, I actually didn't really believe this theory, as it just felt too ridiculous. Or at least at that time, until we got, dragons, omnipresent beings, dimensions and demons and so on. Chernov is Nikolai's brother. This is also an old one. It was believed that Cherno from the World at War campaign is Nikolai's brother, probably because they shared the same character model, even though you can actually see both of them in one of the missions. It's in the mission where you drive around as a tank. Only problem with this theory is it has been confirmed that Nikolai's brother died in Stalingrad, while Chernov died in 1945 in Berlin. AK-47 clones. This one applies to not just zombies, but pretty much COD as a whole. In every zombies iteration, there's always been a gun like the AK-47, which is kinda ironic as the actual AK-47 was only on Mob of the Dead. In World at War, we had the STG-44, which looks like an extra slim PS4. Then in Black Ops 1, we had the AK-74 as well as the STG on the World at War remasters. In Black Ops 2, we had the AK-74U, the AN-94, the AK-47 and the STG-44. In Black Ops 3, we still had the STG-44, the AK-74U and the KN-44. And in Black Ops 4, we had this KN-57, or if you're a real OG, the ARC-7. All of these guns are just newer versions of the classical AK-47, which was inspired by the German STG-44. So I guess this entry should have been called like STG-44 clones instead. Also, the KN-44 is a bit sus. It has had a lot of appearances in cutscenes, lore, and so on. Heck, it's even in this 4-dimensional cube. Also, this blueprint can actually be seen, studied, or read by Dr. Monty in a secret picture in the Call of Duty Zombies comics. It's all a bit sus, as Jason Blundell has stated that there are still secrets in Black Ops 3. He said that the community solved ciphers and Easter eggs so fast, he made some so hard to figure out that we, as the community, probably won't be able to figure some of these out. And these secrets can't be data mined, which means there has to be something hidden in plain sight. Maybe something within the game's textures, and you have to see these textures from a specific angle to read a message or something. Heck, maybe you need to buy the KN-44 935 times to solve one of these ciphers. Loose change under the PAP on Origins. On Origins, the feature that allowed you to pick up loose change under perks was re-implemented. This also works for the pack punch machine, which didn't work before back on the Reese. And after this feature was in Black Ops 3 as well, only this time instead of 25 points, it's now 100 points. But in Black Ops 3, this was only for the perk machines, not the pack punch machine. Monkey Bomb Keychain. On Ascension, if you go to the computer in which you can call in the lunar lander, you can see a key connected to the computer. If you crouch down, you can see a keychain that has the Monkey Bomb picture on it. A pretty cool, just small Easter egg. It's nothing huge, it's just a small Easter egg, but I think it's pretty cool. Lyosak's animation. Now, this is an OG one. Only veterans will remember this. Now, Lyosak's is a YouTube channel that has made animations of a lot of things, such as Slenderman, Five Nights at Freddy's, and Call of Duty Zombies. At this point, they had made several videos about Call of Duty Zombies, and honestly, it's pretty cool. And it's honestly kinda nostalgic watching these now. Their channel is still up, but their upload schedule is Shangri-La on Mars. Yeah, of course we have to include this one. Some people believe that Shangri-La takes place on Mars. I think it had something to do with one of the files on the map, maybe the skybox or a texture has the name Mars in it. That's probably just because some developer said the skybox looked like Mars, so he just called it something like Skybox Mars Daytime or something. People think this goes a lot deeper than it actually does, but yeah, like, how could this even be on Mars? It's said to be warm on Shangri-La. There are trees, like a jungle, weird monkeys. It's a cold planet with 2 moons and no sign of life as of time I'm recording this. And second is the British explorers Brock and Gary, who was referring to locals and was hiking in the Himalayan mountains. I'm sorry, but how do you go from hiking around in the Himalayas and then accidentally stumble upon Mars? Like, how the fuck? Sliquifier upgrade. The pre-patch Sliquifier is actually obtainable on Die Rise right now. Here's what you gotta do. build this liquefier, go to this random sign, shoot it 10 times, and your liquefier will turn into the pre-patched edition. Source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
That, or it might be the pack-punched liquefier's name. In the game files, it's apparently called the SLI1Q1I3R, or just liquefier if you're a gamer. But we all know you can't actually pack-a-punch this liquefier, so why did Treyarch even bother giving it a pack-punched variant? It's also presumed that it's supposed to have a longer duration for its purple goo. It's said to last twice as long, but if you've played Die Rise, you know you can't actually pack-a-punch this liquefier, unless you're playing this in like 4 years' time on Mr. T's Lexifies version of Die Rise in Black Ops 3. Dempsey knows he's in a video game. This also goes probably a lot less deep than what people think, but this is zombies and you have to analyze absolutely everything just like Blundell wanted. Okay, so some of Dempsey's quotes can break the fourth wall. Quickly and simply explain this. At a theater there are 4 walls on stage, and the 4th one is the wall we the viewers watch the stage from. So when the actor on stage calls out to the audience, it's breaking the 4th wall, which is what Dempsey does sometimes. I think we have all heard these quotes.
This guy's bugging me. How do I kick him from the game?
Nocturne Totem leads to Buried. This is just another bullshit rumor that states that if you go down the tunnel on Nocturne Totem, you'll get to Buried. That's it. That's the entire entry. You know, their Totem ambiance. Now, the first 5, or honestly up to like Black Ops 2, had some pretty scary maps, and Kino der Toten was no exception. As Kino der Toten have some horrifying ambiance. Problem is though, you have probably never heard these before, because let's be real, when we actually play Kino, this is what we hear. But if you decided to just take around and just walk around and listen while having a crawler somewhere, you can hear some nerve-shattering ambiance. Just listen to this. Yeah, yeah. Kino der Toten Ascension Rocket. In Kino der Toten, you can actually see a small teaser for Ascension, in fact. In Kino, after using the teleporter, you have a small chance being teleported to a random room. In these random rooms, you can actually see the rocket from Ascension, or the 3rd mission in the campaign, or from the multiplayer map launch. It's a cool little Easter egg, especially since the next map in chronological order is Ascension. I guess also 5 as well. You can also see a teaser for Ascension on 5. Pretty interesting. Missing pictures on Kino. Wow, 3 entries on Kino der Toten in a row. Well, Kino der Toten Black Ops 1 is the best zombies map of all time. Just ask Chaos. We all know that if you go to the right side of Kino, you can see 5 portraits, 4 of them of the Ultimus crew, and 1 that's missing. I'm not sure who it is. Some people say it's Primus Nikolai, which I can't believe, like how? But if you go on the opposite side of the spawn point, to the left upstairs, you can see 4 other portraits, all of which are empty. Maybe this is supposed to be Ultimus and this is supposed to be Primus. Who knows? Abigail Misty is Dempsey's daughter. I hate this one. Some people say Abigail Briarton or Misty, is Dempsey's daughter, because she has the same kick-ass personality as Dempsey, and Dempsey breaks the fourth wall with some of his quotes, just like Misty. Still, this doesn't make sense at all. Like, Dempsey was a young lad during World War I, which happened in 1914, and the events of Transit, where Misty is a young woman, happens in 2035. Breaking Bad reference. In Black Ops 3, in Zombies Chronicles, on the remastered version of Verrückt, there is a Breaking Bad reference. Sadly, there is no Walter, no Gustavo Fring, or no kid named Finger. Spoiler by the way, this guy Hector likely has PhD flopper and bombs Gus while chilling in his wheelchair at a hospital. In Verrückt, which is an asylum, so not really a hospital, if you look outside of the map, there is a skeleton in a wheelchair with Hector's hat. Maybe this is the reason why the room looks like it's, I don't know, blown up. Avogadro is a nervous system. I think this is just a theory. I'm not sure if this is actually confirmed or not. It states that Avogadro is just a nervous system with an electric heart, which might be the reason why you can do some serious damage by just punching the guy. Still, I think being shot would hurt more, but honestly, I just like fisting Avogadro with my electro-stimulating BDSM brass knuckles. The giant cut Easter egg. Considering the flow of Black Ops 3 with all the crazy stuff going on, it's not unlikely that the Giant would also have some sort of Easter egg. Think about it, Shadows of Evil, Setsubo, the Horizon Track, they all have some pretty unique Easter egg steps. So why didn't the Giant have something crazy too, instead of just being some bootleg hide and seek shit? Yeah, thank you, the Annihilator, just what I wanted. There's a theory that states that the Giant's cut Easter egg is an Easter egg where you were supposed to rebuild this robot you see in the background, which actually does make some sense. As in the next map, the Horizon Track, we can actually see this robot being used, and it's even outside of the map. We also see the Primus crew getting out from this robot. Maybe the reason why this Easter egg was cut was to make the Giant just be a easy bare bones map, as Shadows of Evil wasn't much liked at launch. It really wasn't. I hated it, more people hated it, but afterwards, Shadows of Evil is just an amazing map. It's like this map aged like fine wine. Griffin Station is visible on the Reese and Ascension. If you look up on the moon on the Reese or Ascension, you can actually see Griffin Station. It's just barely noticeable, but you can't actually see it. Die Rise camping bug. No clue why they made this suspiciously looking hole in the wall and the sussy looking dirt patch right here, but by setting a trample steam down at this right spot, you can yeet yourself into this corner where zombies won't be able to reach you. Just make sure you have claymores and galvanucles though, because the jumping jacks can and will spawn right behind you. You can even pick up drops as well. Now I know that there are more spots like this on Die Rise, I just wanted to mention this one since it's my favorite. Hidden radios. Again, I'ma just do this one quick. There are even more radios hidden around. Some of these you might never even have heard about. Like, do you know how many radios there are in Black Ops 2? Like, I only know the ones from like Bullet War and Black Ops 1. Some of these radios in Black Ops 2 have some weird Maxis quotes, and another one with some guy named Jackass Flats. Like, what? Perks teleport. Have you ever wondered how things like the perk machines is everywhere and is on every map we play on? Well, it turns out that Dr. Monty is actually aiding us, teleporting the perk machines to the next map to aid us on our next part of our journey. Only problem with this is, if that's the case, why would Dr. Monty aid Ultimus Richthofen, since he had been corrupted by the Dark Ether? So that doesn't make any sense. That, or it's just a game mechanic for the game. But if this is true, and Dr. Monty is actually teleporting the perks mystery box to aid us, why is he trolling us by placing the perks in the most impossible to reach areas? For being a godlike being, he sure trolls a lot. Like, why would you teleport the perk machine into elevators on Die Rise? Like, some of these locations are just so bad. Like, what is Dr. Monty thinking? Why did he decide to give us Mule Kick on Noct? Like, what? 115 Shadow on Ascension rocket. If you look on the loading screen of Ascension, you can see 3 rockets. Which, are these the rockets that blew up Earth? I like to think that it is. You can see their shadows saying 115. That's it. Ted can punish you. So, like every 12th grader, knifing Ted was like the pinnacle of funny. But did you know that doing this actually has a negative effect? Yes, doing stuff like this to Ted can actually make him punish you for this. Either by purposely leaving you behind, locking the bus door so you can't get in, and in some cases force you off the bus. Sadly, I don't have footage of him actually pushing me off, but it's still pretty interesting. Double tap on Ascension. Have you ever wondered why double tap is not on Ascension? I mean, it's kinda weird, right? After all, throughout World at War and Black Ops 1, every perk would always be available on the next map, with one exception, that being double tap on Ascension. But why? Now, there is a theory that double tap were supposed to be in a part of the map that just wasn't made. Likely this part over here. There's a door towards it, there's also a catwalk over there. It's believed that double tap were supposed to be over there, but I haven't found anything to back this up. It's weird that they took their time making this building outside of the map, especially since everything outside of the map is just an empty wasteland. Max's office in the Reese. This is a minor Easter egg you can see if you play the Reese. If you go up to where the quick revive is located, you can see a sign where it says Ludwig Max's office. As I said, it's just a small Easter egg, but it's pretty cool and maybe something not everyone has noticed right away. PhD 27. This is a theory that during Ascension, the Ultimus crew gets drunk on PhD Flopper and then teleports to Blood of the Dead where they meet Jason Blundell. Yeah, that's it. Transit Asylum. There's no doubt in my mind that Transit was an insane concept. Although it flopped extremely, in terms of just sheer innovation, Transit did change COD Zombies forever. I mean, shields, buildables, super Easter egg, perma-perks, bank system, fridge system, and a whole new story plot. It was ahead of its time, quite literally. But with things like the diner, town, farm, and the power plant, there is one thing in Transit I believe was cut, and that was some sort of hospital or asylum. You might wonder why there would be something like this in Transit, but if you look at the zombies, they wear some suspicious looking outfits. They walk around in hospital clothing. Some even have these straitjackets, which are used to stop dangerous people from harming themselves or others. Who knows, maybe Broken Arrow was experimenting with these people. After all, we don't get to see much of the power plant on Transit, and we'll likely never know. FNAF 3 team on Buried. So, while Buried was being made, the previous map, Mob of the Dead, had worked on some custom round-changing sound effects, which Buried also included. But it's believed that they used a theme specifically for the mystery box. This theme is also used in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, during a minigame where you play as Shadow Bonnie. I honestly think this is just a coincidence, as Five Nights at Freddy's have used a lot of very old type of music in this video game, like the Toreador March, or Swan Lake, which is used in the Golden Freddy minigame. Here is the Buried version. And here is the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 version. According to several sources, the original song is called Serenade by Schubach. I tried listening to all three versions. I can hear a slight resemblance at some parts, but I'm not 100% sure. Power-ups. You might wonder why this is so low on the iceberg, but this is just some small secrets, hidden facts about the power-ups. Power-ups is, nukes, max ammos, carpenters, insta-kills, fire sales, and so on. And there are some pretty cool Easter eggs with these power-ups you may not have known. First is the fact that some drops are more common than others. Carpenters, nukes, and insta-kill appear more often, but things like fire sales and death machine are a bit rarer. In fact, you can only get a fire sale normally if the box has already moved once, which is likely why I've never seen a fire sale on Nocturne Totem, as the box is only on one place. And on Nuketown Zombies, it's actually impossible to get the Carpenter power-up since there are no barriers there to rebuild. Third is the fact that power-ups also works on different enemies, like the insta-kill and nuke actually killing the Pentagon Thief. Max's image. I'm not sure where this originated from. I saw the Exceptional Gamer cover this and some old links with this image. This image is over 10 years old. This can either be a troll or an early concept of how Dr. Maxes were supposed to look like. There's a post I found on DeviantArt and some comments as well, dating all the way back to 2010. Back in 2010, November 2nd, which was before Black Ops 1 even released. This is a very mysterious picture, but honestly, I just love how silly this looks. It looks like the complete polar opposite of what Dr. Maxes actually looks like. Of course, this is not how we know Dr. Maxes, because in our eyes, this is what Dr. Maxes looks like. Transit ladder in town. This is kinda like the transit billboard theory about a guy named Sedan, who believes there are multiple locations you can put each bus part. This one idea is where you can build the ladder for the bus here, which can let you go back to the diner or farm. As cool as it is, this is sadly not possible. Nuketown full loading screen. One of the more mysterious loading screens in Zombies besides Shangri-La has to be Nuketown. At first I had no idea what picture this was. Only thing we know about this picture is that this is Dr. Schuster. But there's actually an alternate picture for this loading screen. This is the original, here's the alternate one. I found this picture in the comics, which honestly you should check out. There are some pretty interesting pictures there that could actually raise a couple of flags. Secret images from Black Ops 1. If you break yourself out of the chair in Black Ops 1 and go towards this little computer right in VBush, you'll get to see some pretty scary or unnerving images from some of the Zombies maps. Here's some of them. The Reese Hidden Stairs. If you have ever played the Reese or the Giant, you have likely seen this picture. It's a map of the Reese. There's honestly one thing about it that has always bothered me, and that is this staircase right here. As you know, there is only one staircase here, which leads down to where Jug is located. And here's just a wall. But if you go on the Reese's multiplayer map, Nightfire, you can actually see the stairs that was meant to be here. You can also see them in the Giant. I assume this was just a mistake the developers made when they were drawing the layout for the Reese. Graveyard under the Pentagon. 5 is a scary map. So how about we make it even scarier? If you look outside the barriers, you can see multiple bags with humanoid shapes. And you can even see holes in the ground at the basement/laboratories, where it seems like the researchers may have been digging graves for either experiments or people infected with 115. Shinonuma alternate perk textures. During the creation of Shinonuma, if you look into the game files, you can find alternate textures for all the perk vending machines. For some reason they went unused. Maybe they look like they fit the map too well, and the developers wanted the perks to stick out more for newer players. In any case, I still think they should have added them, because it's kind of crazy it took until Black Ops Cold War for these perk machines to get a different design. Blacksmith made PAP. Have you ever wondered who made the perk machines? Was it Group 935? Was it Dr. Monty? Well, according to fandom, it was made by Group 935 after Dr. Monty helped them out. But what about the Pack-a-Punch machine? If you listen to the full song of the Pack-a-Punch machine, you'll find out it was made by a blacksmith named Jebediah Brown. Some angels came down and helped him and told him what to do. You might think, angels? Kinda angels? Well, if you have read the Bible, you would know that these angels are not what they seem to be. There's a reason why they always tell you to not be afraid of them. These angels that helped Jebediah were actually the keepers. Area 51 is Hangar 18. Everyone knows that Varrock is made from the campaign and multiplayer map Asylum, as well as the Reese and Nacht. But did you know that Moon also has a multiplayer map? Or more specifically, Area 51? It's taken from the DLC multiplayer map Hangar 18. You can clearly see the resemblance here, just take a look. Zombies multiplayer / campaign maps. Just like with Hangar 18, there are multiple multiplayer and campaign maps turned into Zombies map. Although it's not clear, on Kino der Toten, if you look outside the map, you can actually get a lot of information by looking outside of Kino der Toten's location. You can see this huge building in the background, which was made by the Soviets. There's also a wall with an outpost, which means that Kino der Toten is located in the west side of Berlin during the Cold War. Ascension also has some relations with the multiplayer map Launch. Although there isn't too much, you can see it's taken from Launch if you go into NoClip and fly around. It seems like the part of the multiplayer map is inaccessible to the Zombies version, and the parts where you can go around in the Zombies version is not in the multiplayer version. There are more maps too, and I wanted to show you these, so here you go. Zombies have muscle memory. If you look back on World at War and Black Ops 1, you can notice the zombies' uncanny behavior. In Black Ops 2 and 3 and onwards, the zombies mostly just sprint towards you. But if you look at these older COD games, you can notice that the German zombies are sometimes marching, which is something a zombie can realistically do. The Japanese zombies also has an odd looking walking animation, with their left arm in the front and their right arm in the back. And on Ascension, you can see that the zombies with this Spetsnaz clothing can do small dodges to the side to try and avoid your bullets, showcasing that somewhere in their brain, they still have muscle memory from their military training. Nova crawlers are pigs. Before this was confirmed, people believed that these were some kind of mutated monkeys, which I guess I can understand, like they crawl around and climb downwards. But apparently they are or were pigs. Even though their skeleton is very human-like and doesn't resemble a pig at all, this is likely why we find pigs at the laboratories in 5. Secret images from the comics. If you haven't read the comics, I won't blame you. I didn't really find them too enjoyable, probably because it's mostly just about Victus, and the art style is pretty unique. Here's some of these secret images from the comics, in case you haven't read them. Revive teammates through a rock barricade. Okay, the reason why this is so low on the iceberg is because I don't see anyone talk or utilize this ability at all. It's either so well known that no one talks about it, or it's so obscure that no one knows it. I personally have known this for years, so everyone knows if you play with more than 2 players on Baruch, 2 players will spawn on each side. 2 in the Juggernaut room and 2 in the Quick Revive room. But what happens if both players in one of the room gets down? How do you revive your teammates on the opposing side? Well, if they crawl towards this barricade, you can revive them through this barricade. Now, am I the only one who knew this? Or does everyone know and just no one has bothered to talk or use this ability before? For some reason, this is not possible in Black Ops 3, only in BO1 and maybe World at War. Was this a glitch or a feature made by the developers? I don't know. 5 basements in campaign. This is something you might remember if you have played through the Black Ops 1 campaign. In the mission where Mason and no one else breaks into a Soviet base on a random island, after opening up an elevator door, you can enter the labs from the map 5. I honestly love reused assets because it gives me a feeling of, hey, I have been here before. It's slightly altered and some rooms are bigger, some are smaller, and some hallways have been removed. And of course there are no zombies here. But if you look around, there are a lot of monkeys in cages, which we'll talk about later on the iceberg. Also, has anyone else noticed that these windows in the laboratories are just sealed shut as soon as the Pentagon Thief arrives? I assume this is to prevent you from just jumping through the windows, which maybe could have messed up the Pentagon Thief's AI. Nova Crawler's spawn point. Speaking about 5, have you ever wondered where the Nova Crawlers spawn from? In Kino, they are just climbing down the walls. But have you ever actually seen one spawn on 5? You probably just noticed them coming around the corner towards you. The Nova Crawlers is crawling through the vents, jumping down when they find an exit, and it comes straight towards you. This entire process is very quick, so that might be the reason why I have never seen it before. Transit bus spawn point. Speaking of spawn points, have you ever hopped on transit and wondered where the bus spawns? You might think it spawns like at the bridge or somewhere close to town, as town is linked to the bus depot. That and the fact that it takes the bus like 10 seconds before it arrives to the bus stop. No, the bus actually spawns behind the bus depot. You can even see it from the window coming around, which is a bit weird. Could this be linked to the bus route B? Ultimate KO on DE. If you go on the Horizon track and look to your left, there's a railing here where you can see a pair of arms just hanging there, frozen in place. It's believed that this is actually Ultimus Takeo's arms from a different timeline, likely because there's bandages around his hands. And who has bandages around his hands? That's right, Ultimus Takeo. Baruch loading screen theme in campaign. If you start up Baruch, you'll see this loading screen along with some unnerving music playing in the background. This theme is also used in the campaign in the last mission of Black Ops 1 after water starts filling up this underwater base. Transit bus license. It's impossible to play a zombies game without analyzing absolutely everything. If you read this license plate, the transit bus, it says XP-79, which is a plane. An odd looking plane, mind you. With a plane, you could apparently fly while laying down or proning, which would look so silly. Like, just imagine you're sitting in your plane, flying around, you see an odd looking plane coming towards you, you focus on the guy in the cockpit, and this is what coming towards you. But why is there a plane name on a bus? I don't know. But the license plate refers to a plane. There was a plane crash landing near Nocturne Toten, and Nocturne Toten is on transit, so yeah, I got nothing. Kino der Toten multiplayer map. If you have ever played World at War, you may have noticed that a lot of the campaign and multiplayer maps have been reused assets for the zombie maps. But Kino der Toten, which was meant for World at War, might also have had a multiplayer map, or it was likely just made like Shinonuma, with just some minor assets used. If we go outside, we can actually gather a lot of information about this map and its location. We can see the wall, which is likely the Berlin Wall. We can also see a guard tower, which is a feature in the map Berlin Wall, a DLC map for Black Ops 1. We can see this giant tower, which was built in the east side of Berlin, meaning that Kino der Toten happens somewhere in West Berlin. Power plant survival. Have you ever wondered why doesn't the power plant on transit have its own survival mode? Honestly, I would have loved it. It's believed it was actually going to be a thing, as there are footage of it. I decided to take this picture together with the original and Photoshop them together to see how it would have looked like if it was on the main menu. And here's the result. Division 9 is Unit 731. This is a pretty dark one, so if you don't like gross, disgusting experiments, just skip this section. So we all know that Group 935 did a lot of horrible things, and that they are likely based on the experiments done by the far-right Germans during World War II. But something that isn't discussed as much is what Japan did during World War II. Just like Group 935 being based on some of the horrible German experiments, so may Division 9 be, being based on the infamous Unit 731, which is kinda like the far-right Germans of Japan. He also committed war crimes as well as inhumane acts against the Chinese. According to Wikipedia, 400,000 deaths or even higher from biological warfare, and at least 10,000 prisoners died, and there were no documented survivors. They were weapon testing biological weapons and multiple horrifying experiments, including some that I will list up for you. Some subjects were deprived of food and water to determine the time until death. Some were placed in low pressure chambers until their eyes popped out from their eye sockets. Experiments with temperature burns, hung upside down until death, crushed with heavy objects, electrocuted, dehydrated with hot fans, placed into these things and actually spun until death. Injection with animal blood, or more specifically horse blood, exposed to deadly doses of X-rays, gas chambers, injection with seawater, and having their blood drained. There was also an alleged Western man, likely from Russia, who was vertically cut into 2 pieces, pickled in a jar of something called... But oh wait, I'm not done talking about the experiments yet. There was also raped and forced pregnancies among female prisoners, as they needed pregnant women for some of these experiments. It was called fetal survival and damage to mothers' reproductive organs, which was an object of interest. Also, not only did they commit these acts against prisoners, even members of Unit 731 were not immune from being test subjects. Oh, and one more thing. One of these people who worked here as a medical worker was named Takeo Wano, which was a former worker at Unit 731. We don't get to see much of these things in something like Setsubo no Shima. We mostly just see giant spiders and thrashers. I really wish we got to see more of these horrible things in Setsubo no Shima, which is where Division 9 was located, or at least one of their bases. Now, reaching round 100 on Call of the Dead is probably, and still is, impossible, at least on the Black Ops 1 version. There is a feature that can actually help you kill the zombies on Call of the Dead. Now, I'm not sure if this strat is actually viable, since I have never seen anyone do this before, but if you lure a horde of zombies into the freezing cold water and kill just one of them, this will cause an AoE effect that will insta-kill all the surrounding zombies. Maybe this could be used for reaching round 100 on Call of the Dead? Denizens are mutated monkeys. Remember how I said there were monkeys on the campaign map 5? Well, as you can see, there are these small cages that closely resembles the cages under the bank. However, these cages are empty, implying that whatever was inside these cages are no longer here. And if you look at the ceiling, it has a close resemblance to the 5's basement ceiling. Coincidence? Yeah, maybe, or just reused assets. And there's nothing else to this, but it's fun to think about, since this area under the bank looks suspiciously like a 5 basement. Maybe both of these areas were built by the same people. After all, the Pentagon is a government building, and Broken Arrow is a government-funded group. I don't know about you, but all of this is pretty suspicious. Shangri-La Skulls in Transit Cabin. On the map Shangri-La, you can see some weird looking skulls. Most likely these are for the power-up stealing monkeys, but they look quite similar to the ones found in the transit cabin. This can either be an Easter egg or again just reuse assets. It's also not likely that these skulls are from denizens, as denizens have heads a lot bigger than these skulls. Ascension perk health system. This is a pretty weird one. So everyone knows that on Ascension there are no Hellhounds, as they have been replaced with monkeys. Unlike the Hellhounds, these little rascals will hop on and dry hump your perk machine, and you have a set amount of time before they take your perks. Is it just me, or is the health stat of these perks weird? Sometimes it can disappear as soon as a monkey just touches the perk machine, and sometimes they can hump it for like 3 years. I'm not sure how much damage the monkeys do per second when they hump your machine, but I did find some information about this on the Call of Duty fandom. It states that the perk machine have 100 hit points, and one monkey can do 1 point of damage, but only if the players are far away, and 8 points of damage when the players are nearby the perk. I'm not 100% sure if this is true, I got this information from the fandom, but it does explain a lot on why perks disappear so fast or so slow. So let's say you're defending Juggernaut, you are likely close to the perk, which explains on why the monkeys can do so much damage by just humping it once, since you're so close. Trailer mistakes. This one is also pretty obscure. If you have seen the trailers for the zombie maps, there are a lot of mistakes you can see if you just pay attention. Now I understand that a trailer is just meant to showcase the map and not much more, so let me just give you some examples to show you what I mean with trailer mistakes. First, an obvious mistake is that Dempsey is using the China Lake. We also get to see Takeo shooting with his ray gun, but decides to change it to his crossbow for some reason. Also, remember how I said that Takeo has bandages on his hands? Well, as soon as the camera angles change, and we see this from Takeo's point of view, we see black gloves and a yellowish arm, which is Richthofen's arms. In this scene, we get to see someone reloading their Mustang and Sally and start shooting. We can hear a "yeah" voice line, which sounds like Dempsey, but again, with the hands, these are Nikolai's gloves. So the Dempsey voice line doesn't make much sense here. And at the end, we can see the power switch being turned on and the theater covers starts moving. We can then see Dempsey, Takeo and Richthofen standing in a lane back to the starting room, which is impossible because you need to turn the power on to be there in the first place, unless they're game glitched or I don't know. We then see Takeo pulling up his thunder gun, and in a short second you can see naked arms reloading the thunder gun, and these arms belong to Dempsey, not Takeo. And you probably wouldn't notice this unless, as I said, you paid a lot of attention to this. There are more trailer mistakes like this, but I decided to just show you some on Keener der Toten's trailer. Bible references. First and most obvious one is that Dr. Monty and the Shadow Man both being godlike beings. It could be a reference between God and the fallen angel, that being the devil. And we learn that Dr. Monty isn't actually a good guy, which does resemble God, or at least God from the Old Testament. So maybe Dr. Monty and the Keepers are supposed to be God and angels, while the Apothecans are meant to be the devil and his army. Remember that the devil is meant to be a fallen angel, and it does resemble a keeper. I guess you could say that the Apothecans are all just fallen angels, or in this case corrupted keepers. Heck, there's even a zombies map called Revelations, which was supposed to be the ending of the Ether story. There are probably more that I don't know of, but this just shows how much biblical references there are in the zombie storyline. Victis using Black Ops 3 guns. If you haven't read the comics, this one is probably something you have never seen before. In the comics, we follow the Victis crew, and in their journey, they use guns from Black Ops 3, like the Drakon, MR6, and possibly the Haymaker. There are more, but I just wanted to cover these one because they're really noticeable. And it makes me wonder, why does the Victis crew use Black Ops 3 guns? Wouldn't it make more sense for them to use, I don't know, Black Ops 2 guns instead? And now, the final entry, Nikitas. I have wanted to talk about this one for a while. This is a weird, unique entry on this iceberg, and I could probably have made a video about this on its own, but what is Nikitas? Well, it's a player, a Call of Duty Zombies player. I have played with him multiple times before, and you can do it too, as long as you're on the EU servers. The thing about this individual that makes him so unique, and the reason I wanted to talk about him on the iceberg, is because he plays Dire Ice all the time, every day, every week, every month, maybe even every year. He has 17,000 hours on Call of Duty Black Ops 2 Zombies. Only Zombies. He has the blue eyes icon, which means he's active a lot, particularly a good player. He gets knocked down every now and then, and sometimes he just leaves or rage quits. And what does he do when he leaves? That's right, just jump into another Dire Ice public match. He's playing Dire Ice on PC on the EU servers on Steam. His friend invites is full, so I haven't gotten the chance to talk to this individual. You can't talk with him through microphone, nor can you chat with him. He just doesn't reply. It's just so weird. Who is he? And why is he constantly playing Dire Ice? I have taken multiple screenshots from different dates for the past 2 years. Okay, I'm not trying to roast or make fun of this guy, but does he have nothing else to do? No job, or school, or family and friends to spend time with? He doesn't seem to have a mic, nor does he chat. I think Noah J would be very proud of this man. I haven't played Dire Ice in a while, but I'm sure that he's still playing right now. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this man is just being held captive and forced to play Dire Ice in someone's basement. Or it's just a bot. But if that were the case, why does he sometimes just leave and hop on another public Dire Ice lobby? Does this guy love Dire Ice so much he can play it for at least 700 days in a row? If you guys have any information about this individual, or know who or what he is, please tell me in the comments so we can uncover this mystery of this mysterious character known as Nikitas, and why he is constantly playing Dire Ice. Who knows, maybe this is actually just Jimmy Zelensky. But there's no way I would be able to play this every day for multiple years. This video has gone on for too long, especially since I just usually make 5 to 13 minute long videos. This video took me days, no, weeks to do, maybe even a month or two. I've also had to record a lot of the footage you have seen and edited this video. This has taken me a long time to make, so please, would you kindly just like the video and consider subscribing? That's all for now, and take care.